Welcome to Subramani. When you ask a person, how is your health, and he's 40 years of age, and he tells you, I have no problems, I don't have BP, I've got no sugar, I have none of those health problems, and I live my life normally. And he says he's normal, he does not have anything to worry about. Now another 40-year-old tells you that he does not have any BP, any sugar. He has his BMI is 25.4. His VO2 max is 42. He can run half marathon in under 2 hours. And last time he went out was to the Himalayas to do a 10-day trek. Now you know, between the two of them, the second person is fitter than the first person. Unfortunately or fortunately, we do not have any such indicators even in personal finance. Like in health, everybody says, oh, I'm normal, I don't have any problems. I know a 50-year-old who says, oh, I have a little bit of blood pressure and sugar, which my doctor tells me is normal for this age. So we normalize things also. Now look at the same thing, look at the person from a financial point of view. He says, oh, I have no debt and no problem, so I'm 40 years of age and life is fine. Now another 40-year-old says, I have investments in equities, etc., and my dividend income is enough to cover my household expenses, so I think I'm financially free. So you know, the second person is more financially fit. Now, if you are not a chartered accountant, you are not an equity analyst, etc., then there are chances that you have not heard of these things called ratios. Of course, if you are a chartered accountant or analyst or MBA finance and you have done some finance in your, even you may have MBA marketing, but you may have done one paper in finance, you would have heard of these ratios. Now, what are these personal financial ratios which you could which you could calculate for yourself? It's not very difficult, and see where you are and where you wish to be, right? You will have something called an ideal ratio. So the first one is cash flow. Cash flow is how much you earn per month minus how much you spend, and the balance is the cash flow that is available. In businesses, we would have called it free cash flow, but that is exactly what you have. This is the kind of money which you can invest, which you can comfortably invest without having to worry too much about. And this ratio, as it keeps improving, it means your health is improving, which means your financial health is improving. So let us say you bring home 52,000 rupees per month. Between husband and wife, I'm just assuming the total income, right? It could be more, it could be 1 lakh, for whatever. Now out of this for 52,000, you're spending say 37,000 rupees. So 52 minus 37 is 15,000 rupees is your free cash flow which you can invest. In that 35,000 which you're spending, I'm assuming that your term insurance, etc., is covered, because term insurance is not an investment, it is an expenditure. So this shows you how much is your free cash flow, and it will be your endeavor to maximize it as much as you can, right? So maximizing it should be your aim. So if you can add some extra income, if your wife can increase her income, if your children are grown up enough to add to that income, or to reduce the expenses, like if your daughter is started earning and she pays the electricity bill, to that extent your 35,000 may go down by 2,000 or 3,000 rupees depending on the size of your electricity bill. Now if you can do all this, you will be able to calculate how much is your free cash flow and see what you can do to improve it, because the free cash flow is a very important thing for you to know how much you are spending. Now you have to be careful, because some of your expenses, like say car insurance or Diwali expenses, would be annual. So you have to spread it out to know that how much is your real free cash flow, or say, oh, in the month of October or November I will have an outflow which is more than 17,000 or more than 18,000. So for that I need to prepare, right? So some money of yours will be lying in an account which you can withdraw for your expenses. So that is the free cash flow. The second one is the liquidity ratio. Liquidity ratio is liquidity liquidity ratio would be the second most important ratio for you, which is the total cash minus your monthly expenses as a percentage to the total cash that is available. So like I said, your expenses were 35,000. So if you have 17,000 surplus. Now if you have let us say you have 3,50,000 lying in bank FD, liquid fund, etc., which means you have 10 months expenses lying with you, right? So after all your EMI, etc., you have 10 months expenses with you. So in case of loss of job, etc., or for whatever reasons you have no income, you know that you can sustain for 10 months. That is the ratio which is important. Now depending on the position of your life, you might want to increase this ratio or reduce this ratio. Let's say you're a 53-year-old person and your elder kid, son or daughter, is about to start earning 2 months from now or 4 months from now, which means your need to have cash keeps going down, because you know that kid will also have a surplus, that kid is not going to ask you for money. Right, so those reasons go down. Now suppose you are 45 years of age, both your children are in primary school, your parents are staying with you, then obviously you might want to have a much higher liquidity ratio, because you don't know what can go wrong. Similarly, for a person with husband and wife both earning almost equally, let's say you earn 50,000, she earns 50,000, then the need for liquidity can be reduced. It need not be 10 months, it can be 5 months, because probability of both of you losing your jobs at the same time, the same month, seems to be pretty remote. Both, I'm assuming both are in employment, right? So this is how you calculate your liquidity ratio and keep monitoring and seeing at what stage am I, do I need to improve, do I need to have more liquidity or less liquidity, right? Savings ratio, what percentage of your income are you able to save? Right, so savings ratio is monthly savings divided by the monthly gross income. So in our case, we said 17,000 divided by 52,000. That is about 30% you are able to save, which may be good, may be bad, whatever. But as you realize that you have got more expenses coming up, you have your children's fees to be paid, children's marriage to be done, buying a bigger house, more EMI to be paid, then all that. So those are the times when you look at your savings ratio and say, can I improve my savings ratio? Because if I improve my savings ratio, I'll have more cash, which I can make a bigger down payment for my house. Or say, oh, I've made all my down payment for my car, down payment for my house, everything. Now both my children are earning. Now the need to save more is gone down. So now I can reduce my savings ratio can go down. But funnily, that is the time when your saving ratio goes up, because you really don't have anything to spend on. Children have left the house and it's an empty nest. So you and your spouse don't go out to eat or anything. So suddenly you find, well, now is the time when I can save more. I am saving more because I have no goals. All my goals are over or things. Of course, retirement will always be a goal. Right. The next ratio to calculate is the housing ratio. Housing ratio means the monthly housing cost as a percentage of your monthly gross income. So in our case of say 52,000 rupees, suppose you're paying 15,000 rupees as rent. So we are paying approximately 30%, right? So 15 divided by 52 into 100 is about 30%. Actually slightly less than 30%. The national average and maybe even the American average seems to be about 28%. Now the question to ask is it too high? Is it too low? Am I paying 40%? Then is it too high? Can I shift houses? I'm assuming it's a rented house. Right, if it is not a rented house, then it gets a little tricky, because you have to know how much is the interest that you're paying and how much is the principal that you're paying. You'll have to separate the two, but whatever, your EMI as a percentage of your monthly income can also, it has to keep falling, because your income will keep going up, but your EMI remains the same for over 20 years. Most people repay the whole loan in 7 or 8 years, so it does not really matter. But yes, how much are you spending on housing compared to your total income. For all calculation purposes, for giving you a loan, etc., the ideal ratio that the lenders like is about 28%. Now see where you are. Are you at 28? Are you at 25? Are you at 30? Look at all that, right? So another important ratio for you to look at is your debt ratio. How much debt do you have compared to your monthly compared to your other assets? Or the other way to look at is the total monthly debt payments as a percentage of your monthly income. If you are paying EMIs worth 10,000 rupees on a 50,000 rupee income, which means 20% is going towards debt service. People are comfortable till about 30%, but then after that it starts biting, and then there is always this risk that in case you can't pay for a couple of months, then the number keeps increasing. So look at some of these ratios. I think I've given you 4 or 5 ratios. Calculate for yourself and see where you are going on a monthly basis. You will be able to know whether you're spending too much, spending too less, on what are you spending. So like you said, like I said about housing, you can also put a transportation cost and see how much is my transportation cost as a percentage of my income. Because the big two costs which I see for most people, whether they are young or old, is the money that they spend on transportation and on housing, right? So if you can be careful about that. For example, if you don't like the ratio that you get for, oh, I'm spending so much on transport compared to my salary, learn to use the public transport, because the gap between using public transport and private transport is really huge. So think of all those things, but first calculate, see where you're going, watch it over 6 months, and then make changes. Don't make drastic changes in 1 month. It doesn't help and it doesn't even sustain. Thank you.